when I started doing this, I kind of was like, "This, I don't know why I'm doing it," and see how it goes. And like when I spoke to Sean and I spoke to someone else from Jersey as well. Unfortunately, it didn't get recorded. But I said, like, I'm not the interviewer, and I'm not asking you questions. And it just see where it goes. Yeah, I said if you want to ask me questions,
yeah, I do.
go, go, do that. Yeah, there's no. Yeah, you can be the interviewer.
I'll interview you.
Yeah, there's no or like it's no no plan really. Just have a conversation and try and say stuff that people are going to relate to, and it's going to have some value and some, I don't know, help, potentially help people. I don't know how, but
we'll wing it. The universe will decide.
Exactly. Yeah, that's how I think. Balance. It's come up so much in my life, and I talked about it not so long ago. We're like a circle and. Circle meeting for mental health. They've got a mental health club, not club, I don't know, it's like a community centre in the building. It's super cool what they're doing. And we didn't know what to talk about, and someone said balance. So yeah, I thought it was good to talk about. So the reason why I say it now is because I'm saying, like, let's wing it and see how it goes, but have the balance of, like, not letting it spiral anywhere. Try and keep in the back of our head that,
like, mental health, helping people, like, actually getting value.
Yeah, and but yeah.
Is it recording already? Okay.
Yeah, we've been recording. So I'll start, I guess. But yeah, I don't know if this is going to be, if you've heard this already, or whether Nima's going to edit the first bit out, but we were just discussing how we want the conversation to go. And Nicole, this is Nicole, by the way.
Hello.
Jersey girl, and the reason why we're talking is because Nicole is friends with my sister, and my sister obviously seen what I was doing and decided that it might be a good, interesting conversation to have with Nicole, and especially seeing as she's in Bali as well. That's how it came around, really. And yeah, to talk about mental health and just have a conversation and see where it goes. So yeah, Nicole, over to you.
Well, thanks for having me. Thanks for coming for a chat. Love it. I actually have a question for you that I want to pick your brains about.
Yeah.
So obviously, like, I've been in Bali like way less than you, but we both come from the same place. Like, do you feel like your mental health is immeasurably better being in Bali than it is at home? And if yes, why do you think that is?
Yes, absolutely. Why do I think it is? A combination of things. I think I've said on my previous videos, but I think it's a big point, is it's the sun. I think the sun is huge for me, and I think, again, I always say I can only speak for me, which is, it kind of goes without saying. But I think for a lot of people, the sun is helpful for their mental health. So I'd say the sun. I always go to that one first, and then I think it's the mentality of the people. I think it's huge as well here. It's whereas at home, I think it's hard, well, at least for me, to live like the fitness, healthy lifestyle that I live here. I think it's much harder for me to do that at home because of the weather and because of I find maybe I run in the wrong circles and stuff at home, or I don't know if that's probably going to sound rude to my friends and stuff. They're great people, but I mean, I think they'll understand as well. It's like there's not a huge, like, healthy living gym culture in Jersey, and I think when you come here, it's all around you. I mean, the sun's out, there's smiles on people's faces, and people want to live healthy, they want to go to the gym, they want to eat well, and people are talking about it, and it's like almost, it's harder to go the other way, I find. Don't get me wrong, you can come here and you can go off the rails and you can party, because there is a party scene here. But if you want to be healthy and get into fitness, it's such a great place to be, I find, because that's what a lot of people are here to do. So sunlight, the mentality of the people, I'd say, and freedom as well, I'd say. Just like with like, I guess in Jersey, there's, if you want to go for a job, you've got to apply, get an interview, it's stress. If you want to drive a car, you've got to, your license, pay insurance, tax. There's so much paperwork and like, well, again, maybe I was doing it wrong, but I mean, here, I go, like if I want to get a motorbike, it's easy. If I want to stay in the house, they don't ask any questions, I just pay the money, and I just find it so much better for my mental health to not have to stress and worry about like things that I think should be simple, which they are here. And then it gives you so much time to like focus on what you want to do.
Yeah, we've like normalised that stress as well, like how much like hoops you have to jump through to get like really like simple things. Back home, I think the stress on our body, like the stress of the Western world, the stress of like day-to-day life, like there's no real escape from it either, like what you get here. Like you said about the freedom piece, like, I think that's so important. Like I hope doesn't feel like that.
Yeah.
So even when you are stressed, it's not like I never have felt stress since being here, but it's so different in the way that you get to deal with it and like release it.
Yeah, I'd agree. And to go on from what I said about the mentality of the people, I think it's a big thing as well, is that I find at home everyone's like, you know, going after the money and the bigger house and the nice car, and it's very materialistic and always chasing and never satisfied. And it's like a huge, like, I think it's a Western world thing where it's like no days off and always work super hard. But I find like here it's a different mentality where, don't get me wrong, people are trying to work hard and make money for sure, but I think they've got a much better balance here of prioritising the rest days and enjoying themselves as well. And I think I like that a lot better here. People seem like they're not like chasing after something here. They seem like, you know, they're content and like happy to be here, and they don't need to chase after stuff, and they're just like kind of living their life and being present and being in the moment. And that rubs off, I think.
Yeah, because I think at home, like you quite rightly said, because there's so much pressure, I don't think really many people ask themselves like why they want the big house or the fancy job or the money or the car. Like there's no real time to like sit and ask why you're doing it. You're just doing it because your friends are doing it.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, I struggle with that a lot, and I'm glad I stuck to my guns with this type of thing, because I don't know about you, but it was always just like, well, that's the way things are, you know. You've got to work, you've got to pay, you know, be in the system, that's just the way things are. So I always used to hear that from everyone, from friends, whoever. It was just like that's the way things are, so just get on with it and deal with it. And I was always like, no, it's like, I don't think that's how, well, that's not how I want to live. But there was times where I would question it myself, and because everyone was like, no, this is the way it is, and you've got to work, and you've got to do this and do that. And yeah, there was times where I was like, well, I'm probably wrong here. I've got to be, because everyone is saying this. Just get the job and get the nice house, and that's life basically. And yeah, I never accepted that. I'm glad I never accepted that. And I don't know. Yeah, I think it's just the mentality. And then I think if you think like I did, you're alone almost in your thoughts. So like you feel, well, at least again, speaking from my perspective, but yeah, I'm thinking I'm weird. I must be wrong. Like
I'm sure there are way more people who think like you, but it's like the bravery, isn't it? Like people like aspire to even make the choices that you've made, and like it is brave because, like you said, the conversations aren't centered around like what are your goals, like what do you want to do in life, like where do you want to travel. It's like, okay, what job are you getting, where are you getting your next
what are you
house
working?
from? Yeah.
I always had a joke with friends a friend that comes out here quite often. We always joke that that's what people want to know. That's all people want to know in Jersey. It's like before they ask like how are you getting on, it's like where you working or what you doing. It's like it's just we joke about it, and it's just so ingrained in the mentality to everyone wants to know like where you working, not like how you getting on or whatever, how you doing, or like do you want to go and do something, or I don't know, it's strange.
Yeah, like people would be excited and like well in their right, of course, like to tell you about like their new car or their new house or planning to have kids or engagement, you know. And I think like those things can be so beautiful and exciting, but when your life's centered around it, and then there's the meaning behind it isn't any like layer deeper than you just feel like you're doing what everyone else is doing. I think it can just be really unfulfilling. But I'm sure a lot of people do have the same mentality. It's just scared to speak up, or because like the messaging around them is like, no, this is like not normal. You need to be, sorry, this is normal. Like you need to just be like following like money and whatnot. I think they just suppress it. And that's what I think leads to really bad mental health, because suppression of emotion, as we know, just like stores in our body, makes us poorly, like shows us, everyone in Jersey is always sick. And I feel like that's no surprise really.
Well, it's a crazy little place, and yeah, just about, yeah, it's a lot of truth in what you're saying there, and but as well how small it is, how claustrophobic, and how I think that plays a factor as well into mental health.
Do you think the mental health, there is more support for mental health here than there is back home?
More support for mental health back here than there is back home? That's an interesting question. I don't know. I don't know. Because well, for me, the answer is I don't know. But I'd say like you don't need the support here for your mental health, or at least from my experience. Because as I said, like as far as I'm concerned, well, with my mental health, I focus on the basics: sunlight, exercise, eating well, prioritising sleep. And if I nail those things, then I find my mental health is great. And I think even when I struggle, if I have a bad day here or I'm struggling, there's things that I can tap into here that are a lot easier, I find, than back home to do. Like again, I keep banging on about it, but the sun, like if I'm struggling, the sun 9 times out of 10 is out, and like I go out, ride on the bike in the sun, and I just find that most of the time it boosts my mood or whatever.
Do you ever struggle with like demotivation?
Demotivation in regards to
like
what?
say you were having a day where you just woke up on the wrong side of the bed, like mental health's feeling a bit iffy, like you're just not really feeling it. Would you always have the motivation to like get yourself out in the sun, or does it like, can it be like a bit of a mental battle or an argument with yourself? Because I know like from like friends who I've got who've suffered with mental health, sometimes like they'll know what's good for them, but it's actually taking the action to do what's good for them that's the struggle.
Yeah, I think I'm getting a lot better at doing that. I think it's discipline though. It's like, I'm not saying I'm the most disciplined person in the world, but I've improved a lot, and I keep on getting better. And yeah, I hear it a lot and stuff. It doesn't matter what you're feeling. Like when you've got discipline, like I think emotions and that other stuff, it goes by the wayside, because when you've got the discipline, then I think you kind of give yourself no choice. You do it.
You're not relying on your mood.
Yeah, exactly. So even I mean, it's a good question. I mean, yes, sometimes I will feel a bit shitty and I will laze around longer, but it's quite rare, I'd say. And like, I'll still get out at some point. Yeah, I wouldn't probably spend the whole day.
Did it feel?
Go on, sorry.
Sorry, I just fully cut you off there.
That's all right. Yeah.
I was gonna say, did it feel like? Has it ever felt like a risk being in Bali? Like, how? When do you think you knew things like the basics, like sun, sleep, relationships, like just being here and like a better energy? Like, when do you feel like you knew that was the answer? Was it like a risk and then it came, like, and then you found out that way, or did you always kind of know that, like, intuitively?
No, I think it just built, and I couldn't say, right, this was the day where I was like, this is what I need to do. I think it was just trying to figure it out, realising, I think when I was getting more disciplined and I was going to the gym and I was starting to feel better, once I began with that motivation of like, wow, I'm feeling better now, I wanted to carry on. And then I think, then it was about finding out how to feel even better. So I don't know when exactly. When I first got to Bali, I don't think, no, because I think Nima was saying to me the other day about how I used to like go to bed at 12, 1 o'clock and stuff. And that was maybe I met her 2.5 years ago. So I know even at that stage I wasn't prioritising my sleep. Like now, if I have to go to bed after midnight, I try and avoid that at all costs, really, because I know when I do, I notice a big difference.
Yeah.
And like hearing people, like I think his name's Matthew Walker, he's like a sleep expert and stuff, and listening to people like these guys, they were saying about the circadian rhythm, and like he was saying between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. make sure you're asleep at this time, because that's and hearing stuff like this, I try to integrate that into my routines and things. So to answer your question, it was there wasn't a specific time. I think it just I decided at one point that I wanted to feel better and do it for my mental health, and then I kind of got rolling, and then I kind of built momentum as I went and tried to like just build. I think
Do you think like being at home played a role on your mental health? When you were in Jersey?
Well, I was in Jersey last year for 4 months. Do you mean that, or do you mean before?
Kind of just generally in your life, but obviously it probably would have been apparent last year as well. Like, do you feel like Jersey throughout your life has impacted negatively or positively on your mental health as a place?
Well, yeah, I do, but it's hard to say, because I think, if I went back to Jersey now, I think I'd be doing a lot of things different than I was before when I lived in Jersey. So
like
I think, like going to sleep early and eating well, cooking my own foods, prioritising my exercise and stuff, and just doing loads of things that I know is good for me now that I wasn't doing when I was living in Jersey. So it's hard for me to answer that question now. I think I'd have to go back to Jersey and then maybe answer you in a year's time to see if it was easy to continue doing the stuff I'm doing now, or whether I got dragged back into like Jersey life and got dragged down and felt shitty maybe after a year. But last year I was in Jersey for 4 months, and my mental health was, I struggled. But it's not a good example, I don't think, because my family were here and I was without my family, and I didn't have a job, and I was going through a big job process, and I was like trying to work and send money here, and I was missing them, and it didn't work out with the job. So there was like all kinds of So it wasn't a good example to, because I think your question was like, I think I need to
go back as you now. Almost.
As me now, and go back with my family, and after a year I can then answer your question and be like, no, Jersey's dragged me down, or I've really struggled with this, this and this, or I've kept my discipline and I've kept my routines and stuff, and I think I can do it in Jersey. But I don't know if I can, because I haven't done that yet.
And has like building a family and having a family impacted your mental health too?
Has building a family impacted my mental health? It's been great. It's been great. No, it has. It has, because I think it. I think it's. I was searching for it, because before I met Nima, I was just getting bored and stuff. It was the same old stuff, and although I was in Bali and I was doing well, there was something missing. I knew I wanted, I don't know, a partner, maybe support, some different perspective, rather than just on my own, and it was all a bit same, a bit monotonous, and so it's a hard question, but it's been great, because I think it's really good, but it's hard at times though, because you have 2 kids, 2 dogs, and I like to prioritise my sleep. It's the most important thing to me, and sometimes it's difficult, dogs barking, and the kids are fine, because the kids are like, they're not young, they're 13 and 10.
Oh, nice.
So it's not like we're getting up in the middle of the night and stuff. It's mainly the dogs really that are barking, but overall it's all right at the moment.
When your mental health was bad, or in the worst of places, did you ever worry about finding a relationship or finding love, or feel that you wouldn't be able to because you suffered from bad mental health?
No. I don't know. That's an interesting question as well. No, I thought I could. But I think it's interesting, because I think I was searching, and then things wouldn't work out, and there'd be short relationships, and I was getting frustrated, and then I used to be encouraged more to look and search, and then something changed with the mindset, where I was looking into more focusing on yourself and attracting what you want. So it was funny that Nima doesn't think that that's the case, but that I was in that phase of just focusing on myself, and I was listening to things that were saying, if you get to a certain place yourself, then you'll attract kind of what you're searching for, what you want. So that's how I see what happened with Nima, because
So it's like when you stopped looking for it.
That's
when it came.
Yeah. And I thought I'd dabbled with that type of stuff before, but I thought it was bullshit, really. And then, but it's like anything with what I've found with myself it's like when I flirt with the idea, or dabble with it and don't commit to things, it doesn't really work out. But then I find if I go for something, if I commit to something, then it happens.
Your intention behind it is different.
Yeah, because for example, with this, even with mental health, it's been on my mind for the last few years. I know because I'm passionate about mental health, because I've had problems myself, because I think my experience and the fact that I'm comfortable to talk about what's happened to me and that I can relate, I feel like I can relate to so many people and that I can have a connection with them and I can potentially help. Seems I don't really like to say that because I don't really have any experience at the minute. It seems like something I want to build experience first before I say something like, yeah, I can help people, because I don't know if I can, because I haven't helped anyone yet really. So.
I definitely think you can, because like you can be like a master of experience as well. Like even your story now, like the things you've done, like someone else might not have thought of those things. Sometimes even just being an inspiration for others is helpful. Like you might be like 10 steps ahead of someone, even 1 step ahead of them, and it just gives them the like hope. And sometimes I feel like hope is like all someone needs.
Yeah.
So obviously we spoke about like the natural healers. What's your opinion on medication?
My opinion on medication. I'm against it. I'm against it more than for it.
Okay.
But I think again, it's just speaking from my experience, I'd like to build more experience before I really gave an opinion on it, and like work with people that are on medication and kind of see, because obviously I'm just speaking from my experience, and that's all well and good, but it's only, I think I'd be in a much better position to talk about how good medication is if I'd have worked with 150 people or whatever and seen how it affected other people rather than just myself. But as far as I'm concerned, I didn't have a good experience with medication at all. But I had a psychotic episode, and maybe the medication was helpful to begin with. So for me to say no, medication is awful, it's terrible and stuff, it may well have had a positive impact initially to when I was going through what I was going through. But it's a super interesting, complex question, I think, that is about medication, because it brings me to think about, I was having a conversation with someone the other day about how, you know, the Western view and the Eastern view of like psychosis and psychotic episodes are viewed completely differently. Whereas the West are viewing it as like a mental illness, something bad, something terrible, something needs to be treated with medication and be put away and be put in the hospital. Whereas the Eastern way of seeing these kind of things is positive, and that it's an awakening, a spiritual awakening, and they almost celebrate that. And there's people around that, like your shamans and stuff, that are going to support and going to guide you through this process, rather than, you know, demonizing it as we do in the Western world and banging you on medication and locking you away. And I think it's super interesting.
Oh, I do. Because like, so I did a Kundalini retreat when I got here, which is essentially like a snake energy that we've all got within us, and like helps when we have like stored trauma, that energy gets like suppressed out. But they say like when you have like a Kundalini awakening, but it happens not over a steady period, which is what would happen if you just did a few retreats now and then, or a few healing sessions, it opens up steadily. For some people it opens up all at once, and then that brings on psychosis. So like you said, over here it's like somewhat you've awakened, your body just didn't understand how to process it. It's very like beautiful, celebrated. Not saying it's not scary, because obviously if you don't know what's happening to you, I'm sure it's terrifying. But also like the support here would be so different, whereas at home, like you said, it's very quick to get on medication. And I'm the same as you, like does it or doesn't it help? I've seen it help people come out of psychosis. But then simultaneously, I'm like, but we didn't try anything else, you know? It's just medication is the only answer back home.
Yeah. I think it's super complex, and it's not one size fits all. I mean, just the same as so many things. I mean, I hear people talking about such an array of subjects that they're experts in it, and they say this is how you're supposed to live and this is how you're supposed to eat. And I think it's the same with like mental health. It's like everyone's different and everyone reacts to different things.
Yeah.
So maybe medication didn't work for me, but it can have a positive effect on someone else. So I think it's just about figuring out what works and what doesn't for the person.
Because like a change in environment is like medicine in itself, isn't it? Like, I wonder how much medication you would have felt like you needed to rely on being at home or being in a place where that's talked about a lot more, or the norm, I guess, you know? It's easy. It's like if you are scared or you are suffering bad mental health and someone who you respect, like a doctor, is the only answer they've given you is take medication. It's like, what else could you try? And I think, like, luckily you got to come here, you got to see that there was things here that like support you. Environment changed like your mentality, your mindset. Like, I wonder if everyone was able to like get away from home. Like, I really am a big fan of Joe Dispenza. I don't know if you know who it is. Yeah, love him. And he just says like your personal reality is like your personality, and we become our environment. And I think if something has stripped you up into psychosis or bad mental health, if you stay in that environment, you are somewhat unconscious to what might be triggering you or what might be getting you down or constantly draining your energy. And then if that's happening over a long period of time, then we get sick and poorly. So it would be, I think, helpful if we had almost like, I don't think we need it so much here, but like a toolbox for like men and women, that it's not just medication, it's try all these other things too. Sun exposure, breathing, breath work, trying to like have a routine, sleep well. Like, I don't think doctors even check those things.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it would be cool to try these things when people are in recovery from, I don't want to call it mental illness because of what we just discussed before, that are recovering from what they've just been through. Yeah, and I mean, the basics which seem to get neglected at home, and that seem to me like super important, and things that should be like top of the list, like food. Like, I remember like when in Orchard House, it's like shitty food.
Yeah, that's mind blowing, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's like, how aren't people that really are the people that need it the most, like nutrition for their brain to recover, how are they not being fed like highly nutritious food?
Yeah.
And like that's one that stands out to me, but there's obviously others as well. But that's the main one for me, because it's interesting, because I was going to talk about exercise as well, but because one of the doctors, that's what they recommended me, that I had to do exercise, and that obviously, because we know that exercise is great and it releases all the good chemicals and the happy hormones and this kind of thing. But that's interesting to me, because the last thing I wanted to do was exercise, because I like, so as far as I'm concerned, yes, that could help someone, but at that time it wouldn't help me to do exercise, because I was so vulnerable that I didn't even want to leave like indoors or whatever. So it's like, it's like,
what advice would have helped you at that time?
Well, what advice would have? Well, the food, being fed high nutritious food, I think would have helped.
Yeah.
Just because like talking about other stuff, like going to exercise and this time was kind of out. I don't know. I'm struggling to explain this. You have to eat, right? So, but I didn't want to like do other things that could have helped. But like eating's a non-negotiable, right?
Yeah.
So you everyone has to
like
do that.
Eating's not going to further trigger you, or
Yeah.
like further exacerbate your symptoms or what you're struggling with.
Yeah. So yeah, that would be a priority.
Did movement help you eventually? Like, did exercise help you eventually, just not at that time?
What, in recovery?
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't really remember. I don't think so. I don't think so. I know I tried, but almost made me feel worse because I was super fit before, and then you're asked to do exercise, and like I've just been in hospital for months and been eating crappy food and like being told to go and exercise, and I'm used to like being super fit, and then now I'm out of breath just walking or whatever, and it was super hard mentally to like, they're like, do the exercise for your mental health, but like I thought it was worse. I thought it made things worse. So for me, I think, I don't know what could have helped me. I think, you know, someone like me now, like saying to me then that you're not going to be in here forever. I've been in your shoes. I know you're feeling like you're never going to get out of this place, that the medication's making you feel like a zombie. I've been there myself. And I know you're feeling like you're never going to get out of this place, and you're seeing people leave all the time, yet you've been stuck here for months and months. But you are going to get better, and just, I don't know, just I've taken me out to the beach and realising that my mentality, again, it's hard because everyone's different, but you asked what would help me. It's like,
what would help you?
I don't want to see anyone. I don't want to be looked at by anyone. So it's like, I would take myself to the beach, but a completely empty beach, and so I felt okay and felt safe just
to like breathe.
Just to breathe, and not because I felt a lot better by the beach or whatever, by the ocean, but I was so vulnerable and I was so paranoid about people that I'd like freak out and stuff if there was someone 100 meters away or whatever. So yeah, it would be understanding what I was going through, and like feeding me good food, taking me to the ocean, making sure I wasn't around anyone, reminding me that this wasn't going to be forever. That, because that's what it felt like. And like, just I felt like some support, because I honestly just felt like I was going to be in the hospital forever.
And do you feel like the hospital you get any nurturing support?
Oh, I feel like there's some people that are supportive, and there's some people that do their jobs, but for the main part, I could sense that the workers there were there for the paycheck, and that didn't really give a shit, and it's not what I needed. I really needed someone to care, and I just felt like I can't tar everyone with the same brush, because there was some decent, genuine people there for sure. But I definitely got the sense that, you know, the workers are there just like they were looking at the time and waiting to go home and stuff, and I don't know, I felt like I needed this attention that I wanted to, you know, and I just felt like I was in this institution where, you know, the workers were just there because for the money, and then they went home, and that wasn't good for me.
Like, I know you said that obviously you can only speak from your experience, but saying about it would have been so nice to have someone like you, like that's why I think the podcast is so good, and you just being open about it, because I do think that there's still such stigma, especially around men's mental health, like as we know, like men's suicide so high, that I think men struggle with it a little bit more, and then I also think that there's just still so much like embarrassment to have like bad mental health, or like feel like you're like weak if you speak about it, or weak if you suffer or struggle. And I think to have someone like you at that time probably would have helped, like we're saying about someone being 5 steps ahead of you or 10 steps, just a somewhat reminder that it's not forever, there is an end date, you can get through it. Like what you're saying about Orchid House, I remember going there to like visit someone, and I remember thinking like, I would not feel good in here, let alone someone trying to recover from a bad mental health state, you know?
Yeah. For me, it's like you're in an awful place, and then like your surroundings are all feel like awful as well. And as I said, the workers, you can sense their workers, and like the gym or whatever is just tiny, and like
I would love to know the thought process behind it. Like, who thought like this is what people need, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think to myself, it's like, I know that maybe that's not the way things are, but I feel like they're the people, and the way they're feeling as well, that's when the accommodation, the facility should be like 5-star.
Yeah.
Should be the best.
Yeah. When
people are recovering from that. I know it's hard because, you know, the way things work with the system, how things are, it's hard to say that, but it's like, I almost feel like when the people are struggling the most, they should be given the best attention and the best facilities and the highest quality food, and then almost, it be the other way round, you know, on the outside almost, and like, but obviously
it is like, it's like a prison. Like, you'd think that if you're struggling with bad mental health, you need safety more than ever, you'd need comfort more than ever, you'd need attention more than ever, nutritious food, potentially exercise if that's for you, going out in nature, like you said, the beach was really good for you. And like when you go there, and I feel like this is even outside of Jersey, like the general consensus, it seems to be like when you go into hospital, when you need that extra support, unless you're paying a lot of money, you're not getting a 5-star service.
Yeah, it's like you're in a really shit situation, and it brings you down even further when you're surrounded by shit things as well.
Because it's like a reminder that it's not like at all feeling like you're moving forward. It's like your life's on hold right now, and there's no progress.
You're at rock bottom, and you're not provided with the tools to like get out of it as quickly as you could potentially if, you know, you were cared about as people should be. Yeah.
I agree. And do you feel like men, in your experience, struggle more than women to talk about these things?
Well, from what I've seen, yes, but from my personal experience, no.
Okay.
Because I'm happy. I'm happy to talk about it.
Do you think that draws men to you more? Like, do you feel like men can be more open with you because you are so open?
I don't know. I think potentially it could be. Yeah. That's why I'm drawn to this kind of area and line of work potentially, because I think it could rub off on other people that I'm gonna say something completely vulnerable and something that he might never dream about or whatever. Like, I say something that makes maybe his situation feel a little bit more comfortable. In his head, maybe it's like the end of the world and he can't get it off his chest. But if I say, no, I've considered suicide, I tried it myself, I couldn't even walk to the shop, I felt so vulnerable. And then, I don't know, maybe you think like, okay, I can talk about my situation. Or I don't know, there's just one example, but or maybe like, he thought maybe it's like a taboo subject to talk about it, and that men need to be strong and shouldn't talk about it, and it's a sign of weakness. But if they see me doing it and just talking like it's normal, then it might give them the confidence and the space to do it as well.
So with all your current experience, if someone was struggling right now, what would be like your go-to advice?
That's a super hard question to answer, because what's the person like? What do they like to do? Are they feeling vulnerable to go outside? Like, what is it about it? But no, I mean, to generalise, if they're feeling really shitty, then I think, I don't know. For me, it's just someone to talk to, I guess. Someone to talk to initially that was, but it's hard to find. I think that's the thing, because for me, I didn't want to speak to friends because I didn't think they'd get it. I didn't want to speak to family because I didn't think they'd get it. I don't want to speak to my family about this type of stuff, and I don't want to speak to professionals either, because I've never had a good experience with professionals, because I talked about it previously, but there's such a big disconnect that I found, that they didn't get it. I didn't want to talk to them. But yeah, I think if I had someone that was just on my wavelength, that understood a little bit, that treated me like normal, then I think that would have helped. But yeah, I mean, for the basics again, what helped for me now is trying to get outside. Breathing is great. Ice bath, because I think meditation is great, but I never got on with it so well, because I struggled just to sit. But then when I discovered ice bath, that's kind of my meditation. So I'd really encourage that, getting out, sunlight and ice. I'd encourage people into the ice. I know it's a tough one, because if you're really struggling and feeling vulnerable, I think it's tough to go into the ice, because even when you're feeling strong, it's still hard to get into the ice.
Yeah, because I know from friends who've like struggled, it's sometimes like worrying what will help or hinder them, like what's going to re-trigger, what's going to help. And I suppose what you've said really well is like just like going with your limits at the time. Like if exercise is too far, like what can you do? Step back from that. Okay, look at your food. Like it's almost like working the momentum and building it up, isn't it?
Well, for me, about how I felt, it would even be, because I said I was so vulnerable that I haven't said to you, but previously talked about that I would only leave like in pitch black after midnight, and like that's the only time I'd leave the house really. But if it was someone like that, because I don't know what we're talking about, like, because you're saying like, what advice would you give to people that were struggling? But it's such a wide range of how they're struggling that it'd be hard to say. But to give an example for me, it's like, to walk to the shop, I couldn't do for a long time, because I was so paranoid and didn't want to see anyone. So like, if I had someone, because no one understood that what I was going through, my mentality. So like, obviously, but who can blame them, you know? Because if people haven't been in their situation, how are they supposed to know? Because going to the shop for anyone is just like
normal.
You don't even think about it. Yeah, but for me, if I had someone that knew what I was going through there and knew how vulnerable I was, and that it was actually a huge achievement for me to even get to the shop, then I think it would have really helped, because I would have felt a sense of achievement to get to the shop, and then I think it would have built from there.
Momentum,
But like, because it's so normalised just getting to the shop, it's like even when I got to the shop, it was like, well, it's no achievement, is it? But if someone had been with me and gone like,
well done,
right,
smashed it.
Yes, yeah, we're going places now.
Yeah.
Then I think, so I think it's about people understanding where people are, and yeah, and being able to help them and relate to them and realise where they are.
Do you think we can heal alone, or do you think it's always better to heal with someone and get support?
Well, I don't know. It's an interesting question again, because I think if you do it alone, almost, then you're like, it gives you even more strength because you're like, I fucking did it alone. But like, I think it's great to help. I think at the time when you're struggling in crisis and you're like, really struggling to recover, I think you do it. Well, you do. I would have done anything to have someone that was able to help me. Yeah. Because I say that now. I say that on one hand, that it's great that you do it alone or whatever. It's hard to say. I didn't do it alone because there was other people. But I think predominantly, maybe I feel like I did it alone.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think on one hand, I'm like, that when you can do it yourself and you like don't need anyone, then that could potentially, you're like, I did it all myself, so I'm stronger because of it. But then it's interesting because talking about suicide, if I'd have gone ahead with that, then obviously I wouldn't be here, and it's a different subject. So maybe I'm messing this up, but do you know what I'm saying?
No, for sure, yeah. I feel like definitely the way I'm articulating it and can resonate with, to be honest, is like you are going through it alone because it's your struggles. And even with support, like you still have to lean into that support. Like you can choose not to. You have to still choose to listen to people, still choose to take their advice, go with whatever they're saying. That in itself is you still pushing through that battle, even though you've got people in your life. So I think, like you said, it's like an internal journey that you've got to come out of it, because then you've got the security that you can push through it. But also sometimes that looks like you need to lean on support or trust people when you don't want to, or do as someone says when you don't want to. And I think like leaning into it can also be really powerful, but it doesn't take away from you being the one that's got yourself through it in the end. So your mission now is to help other people too?
I guess so. But
mega accountability, because you've said it on camera, so you can't go back now.
No, I mean, no, it's interesting because I don't know if that's because I haven't had any experience in it.
Do you ever in your gut feel like there are things that could have intuitively prevented you from having bad mental health?
Intuitively? No, I think
like if you look at your life, if you're like, do you ever get the feelings of like, if I'd have just done that differently, or if I'd have looked after this more, or if I'd had some more support there, maybe I could have. And obviously we can if and but to our heart's content, but
well, if I know what I know now, I think it's definitely avoidable. But like it's so interesting and complex. It's like
it is,
like
we could honestly talk about mental health all day.
Yeah, but I mean, you're saying to avoid it, but like when we think about it, I think it's absolutely true, and I hear people talking about it. That it seems weird to say, but like our worst times are actually our biggest blessings in disguise, because so then it's complex because because
you could change things, but you wouldn't.
Yeah, I guess, so that it just makes me think. It's like I'm trying to help other people, but then if you help other people too much and they don't experience the full force of vulnerability and the hardship and the pain, am I taking away from their future versions how strong they can be? Because if they had to go through that and I play a part in softening that with support, am I hindering their potential in future. I know I'm probably
I know-
I'm probably
no, I know what
overthinking
you're
it or whatever,
saying.
but
But I think that even if you were in their life, they've got to be ready to hear from you. They have to be ready to listen to what you're saying. And I think that even if someone's suffering, like you said, if you'd have had someone there for you, you might have shortened your suffering, but it didn't take away that you were suffering. It hasn't taken away from the dark thoughts that you've had to have, the dark feelings you've had to have, the scaredness, the fear, the paranoia. Like, no one could ever take that away from you, even if the length of time was shortened or helped by someone giving you a helping hand. So I don't think, even though your suffering had to go on longer, I don't think that if you'd have had a you there, that you wouldn't still have had to struggle and suffer, you know?
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
So lots to think about, isn't it?
Yeah.
But like, powerful, I think.
Mm.
And I love the word vulnerability. It's coming up for a lot for me in Bali. I'm not very good with my emotions always, and I think vulnerability is like key.
Mm.
It's scary, but it's worth it.
So yeah, you've asked me a lot of questions, so I'll maybe ask you a couple now.
You don't have to.
So yeah, what's your experience if you had to like sum up like your experience in Jersey with mental health and how you found it there, and now you've spent a couple of months in Bali. Like obviously you could talk for a long time, I guess, about it and the different, but if you had to like sum it up,
Okay.
what are maybe some of the pros and cons about Jersey and some of the pros and cons about Bali maybe?
Okay. So to like summarize my mental health from Jersey to here, I would definitely say in Jersey I feel like an overall sense of suppression. Like I definitely struggle with the not feeling like I can be myself, not feeling like I can be authentic, feeling quite drained of energy and like quite uninspired.
Why do you feel like you can't be yourself in Jersey?
I just don't get to like express myself, and like because I can be quite spiritual even, and I feel like in Jersey those things aren't really talked about. So when you're not able to like continuously express, think how you feel, I think it just.
But you're talking about like-minded people. Are you saying you feel like you can't be yourself in Jersey because you need? I think you need to connect with like-minded people, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's a mix between the people. Like I've got beautiful friends, beautiful friendships, but we're also different in where we're at in life. And then simultaneously to that, like environments. Like there's no environments that make me feel like my full self, and conversation, environments, like-minded people, and the general energy I feel like suppresses me. So coming to Bali, I already feel more like myself. I feel a lot more inspired, a lot more driven. One thing I'd say that in terms of mental health that I've realised is like there was a false perception of maybe like when I get to Bali all my problems will disappear.
Yeah.
But you still come with your own mind and you come with your own problems, and they definitely don't disappear. And if anything, I feel somewhat like they're heightened here. Like they do say Bali energies are quite wild anyway. So I feel like a bit heightened here in the stuff I'm dealing with, and like stuff I've not healed at home is definitely surfaced here. And that can come with a con that, well, I'm here by myself. I've got connections back home that I don't yet have here. But a pro is there's a lot more like self-discovery you can make here. There's a lot more options for like making connections that you can have here. There's a lot more places to go. It's definitely not suppressing here. You're almost forced to feel things here. So pros and cons of Jersey. Cons is definitely like what I just said about the environment. Pros is it's safe. You know a lot of people there. It's routine, it's comfort, and if you need a bit of that sometimes, which I don't think is completely unhealthy, Jersey's the place to go. Pros and cons here. Cons are like lack of connection. You still got, I haven't felt that safe since being here, and that's not because of like Bali, just new environments, almost constantly new people, especially when you're used to a level of comfort. But pros are like, you know, the opportunities here are amazing, the people you meet are amazing, you know, there's all good and bad people everywhere, but generally people you tend to attract are quite like-minded. You can go to new environments. Yeah, and it's just a really beautiful place to be. I think that summarises it well.
Yeah, good, yeah. Good.
I think it's had a positive impact on my mental health, even though it's challenging me.
So, what would you say to maybe young people in their early 20s that have grown up in Jersey and have been around the materialism, and they're kind of, yeah, what would you say to them that are maybe feeling suppressed, like you say you were, feeling a bit suppressed, and maybe feel similar with when you talk about the energy in Jersey and these type of things, and maybe want to experience something like this? Is there anything you'd say, like, would you say like go for it, or would you say?
Yeah, so I'd say like one thing that really helped me is like just connect with like what you actually want, and in a layer deeper, like where is that driving from, you know? If you're living a life and you're going to work and it's not fulfilling you, you've bought a car, it's not fulfilling you, like ask yourself like what would fulfill me. And sometimes when you're really lacking inspiration, what helps me is I just look at what I'm jealous of, and not in jealous in like like an egotistical way, in like I'd love to be able to do that, you know. And that's a really good indication, especially when you're suppressed, because it's quite hard to feel inspired, and you almost don't want to dare to dream because you're just a little bit like, oh. But thinking like, oh, you know, I would like that for myself, or that feels quite nice, or wow, I'm like, you know, I'm really, for me, before I came to Bali, I'd look at people here and think, oh, I'd love to go there and do this, and that can kind of sit and simmer, and you let it simmer, you don't have to make any rash decisions. But I think honestly, like the best thing you can do is just be fully aware that life is very short and we're a long time dead, and if something's really not fulfilling you and really not making you happy, then you can't actually go any further down from that. So taking any risk is going to be worth it.
Yeah.
Do you feel like we smashed that?
I think it was good.
That was a lot of ground covered in one podcast.
You think? Yeah, I mean we can continue, but I'm happy. Do you think we stop now? Yeah, yeah. I think it was interesting. Yeah. But that's why I like to do the talks like that, and not have like, because I've spoke to a few people, and I do listen to people, and if I think the advice good, I will take it on board. But I've never really listened to people, and I'm always going to do things my way. So, but people are like, yeah, you've got a plan, you've got to write out the things you want to talk about, blah blah blah. But I think this is a perfect example of like, we didn't really have a plan, but with a focus on mental health, let's talk, see where it goes, see where the conversation goes, and not have a plan, because I think a rigid plan is limited.
Yeah, doesn't let you kind of just intuitively explore or talk about what's relevant. It's like a bit more contained. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, cheers. Yeah, it was good.